Let's get it, baby. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is a gorgeous day here in Georgia, and for those just joining us to do a little everything on this channel, DIY, automotive, pinball, machining, you name it, we do it. But today, ladies and gentlemen, we are back talking about my 2023 Tundra. Now, for those of you who don't know, my 2023 Tundra is part of the 100,000 plus recall that Toyota has for none other than motor issues. I have now put 43,000 miles on this truck with the original motor, and I've been doing some samples and seeing how this oil looks. And today, we're going to take a deep dive at what 12,000 miles on an oil sample looks like in this 2023 Tundra. Now, I've been very fortunate to not have any motor issues with 43,000 plus miles on the odometer. We did get a new update on the oil. Now, I probably should have changed the oil a little bit sooner than I had, but I couldn't get over there quick enough. We got 12,000 miles on the engine oil that I sent off, and yeah, I don't know. There's some concerning things. Well, that's enough jibber jabber out here. It's windy, but it feels good. Let's head to the inside, take a look at these numbers. All right, now we made it back inside, and let's go over some of these numbers. But I also want to tell you, I also had a TBN done. We're going to reach out at the very end of this. So we know exactly at 12,000 miles, well, 12,017 miles, you'll see here, what the TBN number. And if those of you don't know what TBN is, it is supposed to be total base number, basically telling you how much lubricating factor is still left in the oil. Once you reach a certain threshold, which is generally a 2, you're supposed to change it. And anything above that still has some lubricating factors. Of course, the closer you get to 2, the worse off you are. So let's take a look. Now we're going to skip the comments. We'll come back to that here in a minute. We're going to first look at what we've got number-wise. Now, if you were to take a look at this, the first column is the actual last sample that we did. The next one just to the right of it is actually the averages that I have averaged on my truck. Now the two to the right are actually the prior samples that I've done. And of course, over to the far right, once again, is the universal averages for this motor. So as you can tell at the time of the sample, I had 41,753 miles on the truck at the date that the sample was taken. And really, as far as everything goes, everything has creeped up. The aluminum has creeped up to 8 parts per million, where it had been 4 the last 2 changes. And the universal average is 4. Now that's creeped up. Chromium has creeped up 1 part per million. Iron has definitely taken an increase to 14 parts per million. Copper, we're up to 3. Lead, we're still at 0. I do find it weird that tin has went down. We were initially at 1 the last few samples, but this time we were at 0. I do find that kind of odd because this is the same oil that we had before, so I don't know how tin went down. I don't know how it went down, to be honest. Molybdenum is 157 versus 137 and 131 that we had before. Nickel was still zeroed out. Manganese, 11 parts per million. But silver is one that they noted as being higher than average normal, or I guess within concerned area to an extent. So we are now up to 9 parts per million. Now the previous sample was 5 parts per million, and then the previous sample before that was 3. So it has definitely taken an increase. Now you got to remember the first sample was taken about 1,700 miles, and then the second sample was taken at 4,600 and some change, or excuse me, 4,500 and some change. But this last one was taken at 12,000. So I expect an increase, but it definitely had a pretty big increase there, and I'm not 100% sure if it's bearing failure or not. I would like to know what materials they're actually using in the bearings for this truck. I don't know that for a fact of what they're actually using. Those of you out there that know, if you would please let me know in the comments, because sometimes silver is definitely used in bearing material. Now they say it could be solder potentially, or it could be bearing according to Blackstone, which you'll see here in a minute. But my thing is, I don't think it's solder, because I can't imagine solder creeping up like it has. I mean, at this point in time, I just don't think that would be the case. Then we got titanium, 0, potassium, and all those are still, relatively okay. Not really anything concerned about. Now the silicon is increasing again, and that is a pretty big increase. We went from 56 up to 94 parts per million. I don't know if I've got a leak somewhere in the intake that's pulling air in and dirt in from there that's bypassing the filter. We just had the service done, and the filter didn't look bad. It was still very clean. Now, I should probably go ahead and change it, and I may go ahead and change it. It really didn't look that bad though, and I mean, even it's pretty, pretty good when Toyota tells you not even to worry about it right now. It still looks clean. So I don't think it's bypass. I don't think the filter is that dirty that it's pulling stuff through it, but it's definitely getting silicon somewhere. And the rest of this stuff, everything looks okay. Now, down to the TBN. Now, depending on the oil, the starting TBN number can be higher or lower. You could have some that start out with a 7 TBN number, or some that have an 8 or a 9 as the base rating. The biggest factor is when you get down to 2 or lower, you better make sure you change the oil, or at least that's what they say, change the oil. Now, in this case, we've had 12,017 miles on this oil. Now, this is 0 to every 20 that is used by the Toyota company for what should be Mobil 1 for the oil changes, and we ended up with a total base number of a 2.7. So honestly, not as low as I expected. I was expecting to be lower than that. Still have a little bit of a lubricating factor still there, but we are getting low, which didn't matter because I was getting it changed at this point anyway. So we're back to fresh oil. We're going to do the sample again, probably in the next 1,500 miles, 1,700 miles. I want to see what's happening at that again. We're going to kind of keep these same intervals. But let's take a quick look at what they tell us up in the comment section. So if we look at their comments, they tell us that silicon and silver are higher than they were last time. We'd like to blame that on a longer oil run, but those elements don't normally increase a whole lot when you're running longer. Silicon could be abrasive dirt, so check the filter, air intake, things of that nature for leaks and issues. Though the other wear metals look how we expect them after a long oil run, so the silicon doesn't seem to be abrasive. So they're saying it could not, more than likely, they're saying that it doesn't seem to be dirt. So it could be anti-foam agents, I think, as well, that are, in stuff. So I'm not 100% sure on that. That's actually, if I were read right here, it says maybe it's from the sealer or lube within the engine. Silver is probably just from solder, but let's watch it. It may be a sign of bearing wear. The TBNs are a bit lower. Try this over again to monitor. So they're once again saying that potentially the silver increase is solder. I just don't know if that would be the case at this point in time, but I don't know enough. Love to hear some of the comments on it. But we're definitely going to run this test again when we get to about 1,700 miles. I think it's probably 1,500, 1,700 miles. I'm going to pull some oil out. We're going to send it off. I want to keep these intervals going. We're going to see what happens. I'm still not up for my engine rebuild or my engine swap yet. They have not called me on that. I did, when I did the last service, he's like, yeah, you're in line, but, didn't really just say when. He said, oh, we'll call you and let you know when. Well, the truck's still running great. And honestly, the more miles I get to put on this motor, the less miles I keep off the new one. So we're going to keep running it. We're going to get more oil samples. But guys, we're going to end this one off here. We'll catch you next time.